Test. Hello, 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 hello. We are live streaming. My name is Joe. I go by Solutions Joe. And today's topic is AI and you. How to stay relevant in the age of AI. That's what we're going to be talking about. A lot of changes recently in terms of AI news. Recent announcement by a company called Block, I believe it is, former Twitter owner just announced 4,000 layoffs, all responsible or related to AI. So if you got questions, comments related to AI, drop them into chat and I'll be happy to try to answer them for you. Meanwhile, let's talk about what I do. So again, my name is Joe. I go by Solutions Joe. I'm a solutions architect. We're talking about AI and the relevancy to you in today's current environment and the layoffs that have just recently occurred. So I want this to be interactive. I want you to ask questions, comments, and I will do my best to try to answer them for you. As someone who works in tech for nearly 30 years, I use AI each and every day. In fact, I use it probably on average between 10 and maybe 11 hours each and every day. I use it for coding, which is programming. I use it for a variety of other aspects to my job, to keep myself engaged and being able to deliver various job outputs and responsibilities in an as efficient manner as possible. So if you have AI questions around AI, how to stay relevant with AI, any concerns you have around it, drop them into chat and let's talk about it and see if we can get a good conversation going on related to AI. I can give you some tips and tricks for using the various tools that are out there. We can talk about things like OpenClaw, if you've heard about it. We can also talk about Claude Code. We can talk about Codex, any of these things. So if you've got questions, comments, drop them into chat. Let's get the conversation going. Again, we're streaming live on TikTok and other platforms. So let's see if we can have a conversation regarding AI and what you're thinking about it. Anybody out there concerned about getting laid off? Again, Block, which is a large company owned by the former founder and owner of Twitter, has just recently announced 4,000 layoffs related to AI, all jobs that are being replaced by AI. So we can talk about that. We can talk about something called role compression, which I'm seeing firsthand in my day-to-day job, and what that actually means and how that's going to impact you and your job. So if you've got questions, comments, please drop them in. Let's get the conversation going. I do have merged chats, so I can see conversations and chats from everybody. So feel free to just drop them in to the comment box there or chat box there. I should be able to see them and we can have a conversation. So basically, what are we talking about? We're talking about AI and the relevancy, or how you can stay relevant in the age of AI. Major layoffs announced today by Block. Again, that's a company that is owned by or managed by, as the CEO, Jack Dorsey, who was the original founder of Twitter. And this is another company he had started and just announced today a number of layoffs due to AI. So the key there is, how do you stay relevant? How do you stay relevant enough in the age of AI in order to keep your job? So drop a comment, drop a question. I'll try to help you avoid the layoffs. But more importantly, what I want to help you do is understand how you can stay relevant in your job and how you can use the tools that your company has likely already made available to you. Okay? And this is the key thing. A lot of companies now are putting the investment into the AI tools. Things like Microsoft Copilot, things like Google's Gemini, okay? And they're rolling these tools out to you as the employee, and they're expecting you to use them. And when you don't use them, that is a red flag to them. I do have a question here. It says, these days, I just feel like the piece of meat that conveys requirements to Claude code. So Dave, just Dave, welcome, welcome. And Heart of Dove Official, welcome. So that's a really good point you made. And to be honest, I feel the same way. So let me share with you what I've been doing for literally the last 10 hours today. The last 10 hours today, I have been doing something that I call prompt-led development, or PLD. Now, this is much different than vibe coding, okay? I actually hate the term vibe coding, and most software developers or technical people or developers also hate the terminology vibe coding because it doesn't do justice to what the skill requirement is to be productive and efficient with using the models like Claude Code and OpenAI's Codex and getting the output that you need. Okay, so today, as an example, I spent the last basically about the last 10 hours working with primarily OpenAI's Codex, developing a business program. Okay. And what was my role? My role basically was as a solutions architect or as a software engineer. And in essence, I have become a manager of agents. Now, for anybody who doesn't understand the concept of an agent, I'm going to try to explain this to you. And I thought about this earlier today, and I thought to myself, how can I convey this information to non-technical people in a way that is easy to understand? Because likely you've heard in the news, excuse me, you've probably heard in the news, and you probably heard in other postings and things, this concept of agents, AI agents. Excuse me, the AI agents are coming. The AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, is coming, but nobody defines this stuff in an easy way. To understand for those who are not significantly technical. So I'm going to try to break it down to you in a simple way as possible. So first of all, think of an LLM. LLM is the brain power of AI. Okay, LLM stands for large language model. Okay. It is the brain of AI. It is what OpenAI has developed. It is what all the other major players in the AI market have developed and spent literally hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars at this point in time, developing. It is the brain of the artificial intelligence. However, up until recently, that's all it could do. Artificial intelligence, as from an AI perspective, wasn't doing much in the physical world or even the digital world. It was simply providing the brain power to understand questions and responses back and generating tokens that were coming back to give you pictures and text and things of this nature. However, where we are at today, what is an agent? You can think of an agent simply as the hands of the AI entity, if you will. So if the LLM is the brain of AI, agents are the hands of AIs. Okay? And what does that mean? So think of anything. Let's take a really simple example. If I want my LLM, okay, the brain of AI, to actually be able to interact with a browser, okay, I need a way of doing that. I have to give it a tool. Well, when I give it a tool, that in essence is an agent that allows those digital hands to do the magic of working within a browser or sending over the necessary API calls to interact with other systems like it's a browser. Okay, so if I wanted to create a document, again, it's going to use tools. It's going to use its hands to create a PDF as an example, or a Word document. If I want it to go out and check my calendar, it's going to use its hands to go out there and to do that. Now, it does it all digitally and through code. But at the end of the day, it's the actions that AI takes that are actually the agents. And it is the brain of AI, which is the LLM, that makes things happen. Now, one of the very interesting things about AI models that people don't really understand, but if you do have a basic understanding of coding, here's a very important distinction between AI and coding that you have seen and perhaps created. And I do see we have another question coming in, so I will get to that in just a second. But basically, coding for very, very long time has been what we call deterministic and rule-based, okay? Which means things are very hard and fast in terms of equating to either true or falses, okay? Something as simple as, does x equal 1, then do something. That is a rule-based deterministic logic. That type of logic does not exist in LLMs. And we'll go into that topic if you'd like in a little bit. But got another question. So can I describe the difference between using multiple agents or using a model in an agent mode? Is it really more of an orchestration thing or scaling more of agents doing tasks in parallel? So it's a great question, Dave, and welcome. And welcome Rocket, welcome Bill, welcome Mysterio. So what has happened with Claude Code and even with Codex, and really happened in about the last 8 months, what they've done is they've implemented that agent concept, right? The ability to physically interact with the digital world and or the physical world, right? Through agents, building in an agent that specifically has the ability to call what ends up being what we refer to as CLIs, command level interface, to manipulate the code that you have within your IDE. Okay, so to your question, that agent mode is implementing literally an agent within Claude Code or within Codex to make that functionality of editing and updating files and being able to manipulate your environment there possible. Again, that's the physical interaction that's occurring. Now, Claude Code has taken this one step further, and it's very interesting. What Claude Code has done is it has given you the ability to spin up multiple agents. Now, why would you want to have multiple agents? Because in the AI world, you can define different personas for the agents. Okay, so as an example, continuing along with the example with coding as an example, you'd want to potentially have, welcome Jeffrey and welcome Stephen, you'd potentially want to have an agent that's responsible for doing QA on your work. That's quality assurance. Or an agent that's responsible for doing testing on your work. Or a responsibility that you might give to an agent, and you might designate them as developer 1, okay? And the other agent as developer 2. And then you can divide out your tasks for each of these developers to work on as long as they do not conflict. That allows you to then achieve a greater amount of efficiency with your coding process using multiple agents that can interact with each other. Now, one of the things that I'll tell you in my particular case with all the work that I've been doing lately for coding, I have been, as much as I talk about companies giving you the tools to do a lot of the stuff within your employment. If you're full-time employed, likely your employer has made a commitment to the company, okay, and a commitment to their shareholders to implement AI and to make it available to the employees so that you can become more efficient. The only problem with that is they're still trying to figure out what that actually means. How do you implement it within your job to really be able to take advantage of it and get that return on investment that your large company is making into it? And what's happening now is that these companies are coming back to the employee, okay, and saying, hey, employee, in my case, Joe, hey, Joe, how are you using these tools? Please tell us how you're using them, right? Because they don't really know how their employees are going to use the tools. And if you think about that, it's a very weird situation, much stranger than anything that we've ever encountered from an economic or from an employment perspective, where the top level management's looking to the employees to explain to them how they're using these powerful tools that they have given them. Welcome, Eric. Thank you for coming in. And Stephen. So, Dave, if you've got any other questions, feel free to drop them in there, and I will answer them. Rocket Science, welcome. X Mike, welcome. So we're talking about all things AI. If you've got questions or comments, drop them into chat. If you want a specific insight in terms of your specific job role and a recommendation how you might utilize AI or one of the AI tools that your company has provided for you, drop it into chat, and I'm happy to give you some of my feedback. And by the way, that is the Sears Tower in the background there. Looks like we've got a little connection problem with TikTok. Hopefully we're back on TikTok Live. I don't know why it does that. So we are streaming on multiple platforms. You got questions, comments, drop them into chat, and I will be happy to try to give you some insight. So from my own personal experience, again, I've been deep diving into AI now for more than about 2.5 years. I'm a solutions architect, been in the tech industry for nearly 30 years. And the evolution that we're seeing with this specific technology, anybody will tell you it's insane. The advancements are coming so fast and at such a, not only such a rate, but a change that is just mind-blowing. In fact, if you're familiar with a gentleman named Dario, who is the CEO of Anthropic, and Anthropic is the one who makes Claude Code, along with some other products. A recent interview of his that I just saw was really quite funny. Welcome in, doctor. And that was that he is still very confused and somewhat blown away by the lack of appreciation or the lack of understanding, and in his words, by 95% of the population of where we are currently at with AI. In other words, I live in a bubble. Perhaps you live in a bubble. I definitely do. I live in a tech bubble. So I think everybody knows everything there is to know about AI. But the reality is I am the exception and not the rule. And often when I go to dinner parties, I find that out. And I also get kicked to shut up about talking about AI sometimes. So, but moving on. I see Dave, you get said maybe it's my configuration, but I've defined multiple agents and they don't work very well. It's usually better off just using generic model agent. So you definitely have to, when you set those up, you absolutely need to make sure that you're defining personas for this. You need to give them the appropriate instructions. You don't want them all trying to do, in essence, the same work simultaneously. That is not going to turn out well, right? It's like, and here's the key thing I would tell anybody regarding AI. Welcome in, Mary Bird. The key thing about AI is when you're using it, whether you're using it as a technical person from a programming perspective, or you're using it from a simple, either, let's say, an operations perspective, an accounting perspective, marketing perspective. Not Morgan, welcome in. Lonnie Anderson, welcome in. So the interesting thing about that, I can give you one piece of advice that I think is the absolute best piece of advice I can give to anybody, technical or non-technical, when it comes to utilizing AI. And it simply is this. You need to think about it as you're speaking to another human being. Okay, I know that sounds crazy, but we call it the humanity test. If you can give instructions, welcome in, Roy, if you can give instructions to AI such that if you give it a humanity test afterwards, or mentally think about it and give it a humanity test, meaning if I had just given these same instructions to somebody next to me and gave them the necessary resources they needed, right, which might be an attached PDF or an attached document or some other additional information, right, would they be able to accomplish the task that I'm asking for them to do? And if the answer is no, then your answer is very simple in terms of whether AI is going to give you the result that you expect. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Dave, for jumping in and stopping in and chatting. Have a good night. The key thing is that if you put that humanity test to work when you're using AI in any form or function, you are going to get far better results. I can absolutely guarantee that for you. Okay, I do it all the time. I give a tremendous amount of what we call context into the model. And if you're using AI, especially like Gemini or ChatGPT, if you're using it like Google and just doing generic searches, then you're using it wrong. The way these models are designed is for them to be interactive, for you to have a conversation with them, again, much like you're having a conversation with another person. And if you do this, you're going to find that your results that you get back are far better and far more surprising than if you don't put that humanity test in place. And I guess you could also say it's not just a matter of putting a humanity test in place, but it's also about giving it some humanity, which might sound crazy, right? And I get that, because some people are scared of everything related to AI and what it could potentially do. But at the end of the day, if you want to be one of the people who is actively seen to use AI especially within your job role, and you're leading that effort versus waiting for somebody else to lead you, then you need to think of it from more of a human perspective than a machine perspective, because you're never gonna achieve thinking like a machine, but you can think like a human. And the way the large language models have been trained, they have been trained on how we talk, how we interact. Okay, so working with them in that same way can yield far better results than if you try to speak to it like a machine. In other words, giving it very, very direct kind of maybe commands and things that you would typically maybe include from a programmatic perspective are not necessary within the context of having a interaction with an LLM, and really trying to get as much out of it as you possibly can. So again, we're talking about AI and its relevance to the job market these days, how you can stay relevant in terms of implementing it within your daily work. If you've got questions, comments, drop them into chat. I'm happy to have a conversation. And we can go from there. We are streaming on multiple platforms. We have some cheers. One of the things that I started playing around with from an AI perspective, this was probably a year ago or so, maybe. This was music, and back then it was still evolving. There's a platform called, I think it's pronounced Sonono, S-U-N-O. I started playing around with it back then, and it was okay. It wasn't great. However, most recently, I went back and started to play around with it again, and I have to say that I'm blown away by it. And actually, I'm just trying to see if I can find my song or songs that I had put together, because it's really pretty crazy. Again, if you get questions, comments, drop them in chat. I'm happy to give you some insight in terms of AI and how to stay relevant in today's world. Drop a comment, say hi. And we are streaming on multiple platforms, streaming on X, streaming on TikTok, streaming on YouTube. I can see chats pretty much from all over. So you got comments, questions, dropping them in there. Okay, I think I found my song. So believe it or not, you should be able to hear this music. This is all AI generated, which is quite insane. They have now, there are some people who are now creating music and publishing it on Spotify with AI music that's doing very, very well. So you can hear obviously the instruments. You can hear the vocals. I have one song on here where there's both a male and a female rapper. So it's pretty interesting. Now, there are people who say this is really going to negatively impact the creative people in the world. But to be honest, I would probably disagree a bit. And hear me out before you get too excited. So I'm a creative as well. I have been not only technical, but I've also been a creative person for much of my life. We have entered an era of technology that allows somebody like me or you to be able to create from a creative perspective, whether it's film, whether it's video, I should say whether it's video or whether it's still photos or whether it's music or any other creative element, you can now create from the comfort of your home. Now, why is that significant? It's significant because, and you can hear people like Timothée Chalamet just talk about this on one of his podcasts, okay? There are so many gatekeepers in the world for so many things that people want to do, especially when it comes to the creative arts and for filmmaking and music, in which there are so many barriers to these people in terms of cost, as well as to just the physical barriers in terms of the people and or the locations they need to go to be successful. But if you can do this now from your bedroom, and you can be creative in the sense that you can create unique styles and unique sounds, which the tools give you the complete ability to do, and to do it for pennies instead of thousands and thousands of dollars. What has happened is we're getting to a point in which skills are becoming what we call democratized. Knowledge is becoming democratized. And what that simply means is instead of it being gatekept, okay, by so many people in the world, it's becoming more and more freely available to those who want to take advantage of it and who are willing to step up and learn how to use these tools, okay? And that's what I'm here for, is to try to help some of you understand how you can take advantage of some of the tools you may have in your life today, okay? And the better time to learn or start learning is absolutely now. Now, if you hear this song, those voices, that's AI. And if that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will.
Upload the future, let it run through us. I'm staying relevant, writing every update, every rush. Full of abundance coming, yeah, I can feel that flood. Elon, Sam and Dario say the wave is made of us. Old fear, that myth, machine stealing every gift. I laugh, lean in, ask better questions, start again.
So that's pretty crazy. And it actually got a good beat. I mean, it honestly took me very little to create it, but I know what I like to hear. I know what I like to see, right? And at the end of the day, that's what people want. They want what they like to hear and see. So it's pretty crazy, pretty crazy. And that again is from a site called Sunono, S-U-N-O. They're making definitely big waves in the music market. It's crazy. So if you have questions, comments regarding AI, how you can stay relevant in the age of AI, what you can do at work in terms of the tools that you might have available to you, drop in question, comment, drop it in, and I'm happy to give you some direction, maybe something you can try out tomorrow in the office. Questions, comments, drop them in. Again, my name is Joe. Call me Solutions Joe. Here to try to help you understand how to stay relevant in the AI era. Drop your questions, drop your comments. Let's have a conversation.
Windows down, summer air, skyscrapers, seagulls.
Ask those questions. Give me those comments. Love it, hate it. Don't be afraid. Express yourself.
Trying to see who that kid from the EAST. Little sand on my J's from the Montrose stretch. Shoreline shine, the horizon flex.
So this little song you hear in the background is a song I put together about Chicago. Which, if you can't tell from the background, that is where I'm at.
From the pier to the beach to the club we live. Every block, every bar, that Midwest drive. Don't be hating on the home we love. It's a lakefront flex, better show some love.
Questions, comments, drop them in. Let's talk. How to stay relevant in the AI era. How to avoid perhaps one of those layoffs just announced today by Block. 4,000 people being laid off and attributed to AI. I look like I have antennas.
It's that lakefront flex. We ain't slowing up. From the sand to the skyline going up. Put on the map, but we feel like one.
Say hi. Drop into chat, say hello, and let me know where you are from. What part of the world are you listening from, watching from? I am in Chicago, Illinois, America. Where are you from? Let me know. Drop it in the chat. Let's see. Who's the furthest away? That's the question. I always like to figure out or find out who is the furthest away. Oh, see somebody in California, somebody out of Florida, both in the U.S. Anybody outside of the USA? Our life insurance agency. I know way too much about life insurance, or actually way too much about insurance, period. Welcome in. Have the commercial LLMs taken over, or do companies still train their own AI models much anymore? And we got a Canadian. Hello, Canadian. I'm actually French Canadian on my father's side. So that's a good question. So there are almost nobody training their own models. Let me lower this music a little bit for you guys. There's almost nobody training their own models. Everybody is using the large language models, the OpenAIs, the various GPT versions there, as well as obviously Anthropic's models and some of the other models as well. Now, the reason for that is really, really simple. It takes hundreds of millions of dollars to train a base model, okay? And companies like your insurance company, as an example, whether it's like an Aetna or United Health, whatever, they're not investing $100 million to try to train a model. Now, they can choose to potentially fine-tune a model, and that may be somewhat beneficial for them. But we are getting closer and closer to something called AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which in essence is the ability for the models to have become so smart, okay, that they equate to like a PhD student or a graduate student. And what does that mean? Again, if you were around earlier, we were talking about the humanity test, okay? So when it comes to AI, you can't stop thinking about this, or I should say the easiest way to think about this is from a humanities perspective, not from a machine's perspective. Because if you think about it from a machine's perspective, you are not going to fully grasp what is going on, because the reality is, even the people who are involved in developing these models, they will tell you, and you can go and listen to many of the podcasts that they have been on, that they do not fully understand what is going on in the inference process, which is where things are occurring in terms of the actual input tokens and output tokens and kind of the reasoning part. Okay, they don't fully understand how that works, and they may never fully understand how that works. So because of that, you have to take a step back, especially if you're a non-technical person, and say, okay, how can I think about this in a context that makes sense to me? And my answer to you is going to be this: think of it from more of a human's perspective. One of the things we were just talking about earlier is that the LLM, which is the brain in essence for the AI, think of it as the brain for the human. Okay? Agents. You've heard of agents probably by now. Many people have. They're in the news all over the place, but lots of people don't even understand what the heck an agent is. An agent in essence is the hands of that AI human, if you will. Okay? And I'm not talking about robots, but I'm talking about how does that brain interact with the world, whether it's a digital world or whether it's reaching outside of its existing digital-based computer server, whatever it might be. Okay, those are the agents. That's the action that it's taking. So if you start thinking about it from that perspective, it begins to make more sense. Okay, that's number one. Number two, when it comes to the models themselves, because they're getting so smart and getting close to AGI, which again, in a humanity perspective or a human perspective, think of that as somebody who's gone through university and is now either a graduate or a PhD level type of student. You could take that person and you could plug them into your company and you could give them context of what they need to do, and they're going to be smart enough to understand what you're telling them and smart enough in order to perform those tasks, even though they didn't go to school to do that specific thing you're asking for. Excuse me. So that's where AI is going. So the requirement to train a specific model for specific companies' tasks, that is something that, number one, is not really required, because the majority of tasks that need to be accomplished within any large company are tasks that a smart human being can do. Now, when you're getting into companies, let's say maybe aerospace or specific scientific type of companies, or even companies that are pharmaceutical based, those are definitely going to have more specialized models. But the larger companies, these OpenAIs and Anthropic and others, they're going to be the ones who are going to, in essence, build those base models. And then those companies may find it worthwhile to invest another $50 million in terms of the fine tuning of that model for something specific within that industry. But for the vast majority of other companies out there, insurance companies, utility companies, what are some companies? Automotive companies. All these companies have back offices with operational, marketing, accounting. Right. This is all very generic things that almost every company has that AI can do and do very well. And as it approaches AGI, there's no reason for specialization or even fine tuning in most cases for these LLMs. Okay, they can just basically pick up where somebody who graduated from college would pick up, walk in, and start doing a job. So hopefully that helps. If you got other questions, comments, drop it in. Again, I really stress to people, when you are encountering AI, try to wrap it in humanity. You'll find it a whole lot easier to understand if you draw those types of analogies, because again, at the end of the day, the people who are most deeply involved in this stuff, the Sam Altmans, the Darios, okay, they don't fully understand what's going on. So if they don't fully understand what's going on in terms of these models, how are we, as obviously people who are likely not in those kinds of trenches, if you will, of the digital science, the mathematicians for the complex algorithms, how are we supposed to understand that, right? We have to understand it from the perspective, more from a humanities perspective, a human perspective, than from a machine's perspective. And you will then be able to work with it much better. As an example, in my current job, okay, I'm working with, doing a lot of development right now on a specialized project, and I have set up, in essence, multiple agents that I consider developer 1, developer 2, and I speak to them that way. I interact with them that way. And when one has a question about what it needs to do, and I don't have the answer as the architect, guess what I do? I tell developer 1, write me a brief of the questions you have, okay, the technical questions you have. I will get that to developer 2, and he'll give you the answers, or they will give you the answers, whatever gender you want to frame around it. And then I give it to developer 2. Developer 2 reads it, outputs the information. I take it and give it to the developer 1. Developer 1's like, that's great, that's fantastic, that's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, now it sounds crazy, but if you actually had developers on a team, that is exactly what you would do. You would tell those developers either A, have a conversation, or B, tell him the requirements you have, okay? And he will tell you how to potentially implement those requirements, or what he's done or what she's done, over some period of times in terms of specifications, okay? It's an opportunity to leverage the tools, okay? And it's also an opportunity to kind of, what I would say, not drive yourself insane, trying to think about these things in a different way, okay? So that's my 2 cents. The one thing that I will tell you is that the most sure thing regarding AI is that what is going on today is likely what's not going to be. Let me rephrase that. What's going on today is going to change tomorrow. Now, I use that loosely, but the rapid changes that are occurring and the velocity of changes we are seeing is quite incredible. Okay, so this example that I just gave you, which is a real world example, is a bit of an aggravation for me, because I'd rather just have those 2 developers work together, okay? The 2 agents basically come together and work. Unfortunately, my company hasn't given me the tools to do that. It's possible in today's world, right? As if I had Claude Code as an example, and I had full access to all the power that Claude Code has today, then, or even OpenAI's Codex, okay, then it would be something that I could implement, right? But I have to work within the constraints of what my employer makes available for me. I know there's other things that are available, because even in my off time, my non-9 to 5, again, I'm pretty immersed into the AI world, staying abreast of the new features and functions and what's becoming available. So again, you got questions, comments, drop them in chat. I'm happy to have a conversation. Hello, TikTok. Hello, YouTube. Hello, X. We are streaming across all the different platforms. So you got questions, comments, drop them in. Let me know what's going on. What else are people from? We have Canada. We have Canada. We have California. We have Florida. And Be Fearless 640. So drop those questions and comments. Let me hear it. What is today? Today's Thursday. I like Thursday. Thursdays is one of my favorite days for some reason. Probably because Friday's around the corner. Welcome, welcome. Got questions, comments? Let me have them. If you have questions, comments, drop them in. We're talking about AI and how to stay relevant in AI era block. Jack Dorsey just announced 4,000 layoffs and attributed to AI. And in that statement, he also said the new structure of companies is going to be one in which there's far fewer people and much more leveraging AI. So use this as an opportunity to ask questions, and I will try to give you some insight. The key insight that I can offer you is that I use it every day. I use it nearly 10, 11 hours every day. I use it not in my 9-to-5 job. I use it on the side. I understand it very well, both from a complex perspective as well as from a useful kind of higher level perspective, meaning if you're in marketing, if you're in accounting, if you're in operations, if you're in any of these areas, and you're wondering how can you take advantage of likely tools that your company has already made available to you, and they're watching you. I can guarantee you, if you're working for a large company and they have made available to you various AI tools, I can guarantee you that they are watching you very closely. Your management is looking who is going to use these tools and how are they going to use them. Okay? So that's what I'm here for. Let me know the role that you have, and let's see if I can offer you some insight. You know, I'm trying to figure out this TikTok dashboard for some reason. Got questions, comments, drop them in. Talking about AI, talking about how to stay relevant in the era of AI. Jack Dorsey, former Twitter CEO, announces 4,000 layoffs in his new company, attributing it to AI. Again, let's have a conversation. Drop your comments, drop your questions. Colorado in the house, Canadian in the house. Welcome. I am out of Chicago, if you can't tell from the background. Okay. And by the way, that music, that is all AI generated. Crazy. Okay, any other questions, comments? Drop them in. I'm gonna wrap up here pretty soon. So if you are in a position right now at a company and you've got AI tools at your disposal but you're not sure how to use them, just let me know what role you have and potentially the tool you have access to. I'll give you an insight on how you can potentially leverage it. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Appreciate it. It's about 9 o'clock here in Chicago, a little after 9. I think I'm going to wrap things up. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your questions and participation. Appreciate it. Everybody have a good night. We'll talk to you another time. Bye-bye.